Aguilar. Bardzo proszę.
Thank you, Madam President. I am humbled and honoured to present this draft motion for a resolution on such a sensitive issue, search and rescue in the Mediterranean. I mean it, search and rescue of human lives in the Mediterranean against the unbearable death toll in the Mediterranean that we have mourned so many times throughout the debates of this plenary session of the European Parliament in Strasbourg. I'll make some remarks in English according to the documents that have been widely circulated throughout the debate within the LIBE Committee, the Committee of Liberty, Justice and Home Affairs, and then I'll move into Spanish to make some final statements. Presenting the case is just recalling the importance of the historic record of the resolutions of this European Parliament, quite a number of them. Every time there has been a tragedy in the Mediterranean, 1,000 dead human lives in the Mediterranean. Only this year, we have mourned them on a regular basis, almost ritually. And it is not the case that we ritually deplore this tragedy. It is about time that we bring about change and call the Commission and the Council for real action on the matter. And this is the aim of this concise resolution that has tried its best to encompass all of the component elements of the rationale behind the different political groups in this House which are willing to spread the message, to reach out to the European citizens that we actually do care about the necessity to stop this death toll and this tragedy. So many lives are lost because they don't have a regular pathway to make it to Europe. That is why they expose themselves to human trafficking of human beings and the most unbearable violations of human rights in the other side of the Mediterranean coast, namely Libya. So we not only make the case for the necessity of enhancing legal pathways, namely humanitarian corridors, but also to call Libya by its name, no safe place, no safe port for disembarkation. We do care about enhancing the capacity to respond of the actual disposal, which is Frontex in cooperation with some member states and also in cooperation with the Libyan Coast Guard. But we know that people trying to flee from Libya are subject to Libyan authorities, which deem to be a criminal offence against the Libyan legal order to try to flee from Libyan territory irregularly, when they are not given the chance to make it regularly. That means, in practical terms, that those who are sent back to Libya are subject to the most inhumane violations of the most basic rights. We should not turn a blind eye on that situation. There is also a very important legal point that has been in the undergoing discussions present on a regular basis, and that is the need to stop the criminalisations of NGOs trying to save lives in the Mediterranean, trying to cooperate in the operations of saving lives. Of course, we pay respect to the efforts that have been deployed by public authorities, namely Italy, Spain. They have invested massive public resources, as the rest of the bordering countries, the southern bordering countries of the European Union. Malta, Greece, they spend their own resources to save lives in the Mediterranean, but they have to do it under a European framework, which makes sense at a European level, which is consistent with European law. And when I mean European law, I mean also international humanitarian law, which is at stake, because international humanitarian principles are part of European law, according to the Lisbon Treaty, which entered into force in 2009, 10 years now, along with the Charter of Fundamental Rights, which enshrines in Article 18 the right to seek for asylum. And it is 20 years from Tampere, which launched the call for a European space of liberty, justice and security, which makes sure that the response towards asylum seekers is a European response, consistent with European values, with European foundations, and it means shared responsibility and fairly shared responsibility towards the issue, as it is the mandate of Article 80 of the Treaty on Functioning of the European Union. All these component elements are in place. What we call for the Commission is, of course, to do its best with the Council in this new mandate, fresh start, to unblock the asylum package in all, to make sure that the Facilitation Directive is reviewed, to stop the criminalization of NGOs, to open ports, to safe disembarkation to those vessels which have rescued lives in the sea according to international humanitarian law, because the Convention of Maritime Law, which was codified in Jamaica in 1982, and the Conventions on Rescue and Safety in the Seas, adopted in the 70s of the past century, are still binding for all member states as they are binding for the European Union itself. So there has to be a European framework for response, which really does make sense. Finalmente, quiero simplemente señalar la necesidad de que el Parlamento Europeo, en el voto que se celebrará mañana jueves, muestre la misma voluntad de marcar su mensaje propio ante el Consejo y la Comisión que mostró en resoluciones anteriores, notablemente en la resolución que adoptó el concepto de holistic approach, una visión comprensiva ante la migración y el asilo, que lleva la firma de sus ponentes en aquel momento, la señora Metsola, del Partido Popular, y la señora Cecilia Kyenge, del Grupo Socialista. En aquella resolución importante se lanzó un mensaje humanitario y de compromiso de cambio. Queda todavía pendiente, como quedó pendiente el mandato que adoptó este Parlamento en la legislatura anterior, de acabar con la criminalización de NGOs modificando la Facilitation Directive. Este es el mensaje que quería compartir y agradeceré el voto de todos los grupos parlamentarios que estén dispuestos a renovar ese mensaje ante la Comisión y el Consejo en su nuevo mandato. Gracias, señora presidenta.
Dziękuję bardzo. W imieniu Rady zabierze